Hello and welcome to the Wake Up with Gratitude podcast. I'm your host, Julie Boyer, and today I'm welcoming a fellow island friend, James Gardner. Hello, my friend.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I am very excited for us to connect. When I was first introduced to you through a mutual friend who is actually now my audio engineer and his wife, who's been on the podcast as well, I was like, this guy just sounds incredibly exciting and interesting. And I just can't wait for us to connect. And James's business is Conscious Warrior Coaching. He's a coach, he's a strategist, a high performance champion. He is a lover of life. He has gratitude flowing through his cells. And just he has this beautiful energy that makes you want to lean in and learn more. So I'm very excited to bring that to our podcast audience today. And as I love to start most of my episodes, I'd love to hear a little bit about your story because I imagine that you didn't just wake up one day and now you're a high performance champion and doing all these incredible things. Could you tell us a little bit about your story about how you kind of got here?
Sure, it is quite a story to be honest, and that's the beauty of life. Uh, yes, it's stepping into where I am now in terms of consciousness. I've always, ever since I was a kid, have been a warrior. I've been, the captain leading the charge and a natural leader, if you will. And that took me through sports arenas, took me through arenas in New York City and Manhattan and Los Angeles and Vancouver before coming here to the island, in different sub arenas, if you will, in terms of the entertainment industry, hospitality, and so forth. And during that journey, Julie, it was predominantly an ego based journey, and especially when I moved to New York at a young age. That was the defining point where I felt like I kind of said goodbye to the little Jimmy, and then I started to kind of play the game of life and fail forward, make bad decisions, learn from them. Sometimes not. Sometimes, I had to learn the hard way, and all of that egoic kind of charge in life led me to a moment, which I call my jungle event 3 years ago, which I went in deep into the jungle, soul searching to find out who the heck James really is, and and at that moment, through a lot of deep work, I uncovered my authenticity, my real truth. And as I began to emerge, I realized that love in all things and really coming from a heart-centered, graceful approach to life, gratitude flowing in my veins, as you said, uh, and really going from selfish to selfless, and everything. And that's kind of how the warrior has transitioned to the conscious warrior of how I show up every day.
I wrote this down because I wanted to check in. Now, when you say jungle moment, do you mean you actually went into a physical jungle or like the jungle of your mind and your ego?
Great question. Uh, my mind and my ego.
Yeah.
It was 2 years of just soul searching in the sitting in my own poo poo, if you will, and and really just asking some big questions, and it was spurred on too by a conscious decision that I made to walk away from my family, because I felt instinctively I was called for something else. It wasn't serving me, and so there was a lot of work to do, a lot of understanding, a lot of healing. So the jungle event was sticky, it was hot, it was dense, it was mosquito ridden, and
I love I love that. I was asking because I was really captivated by that moment. I'm like, did he really go into the jungle? That sounds amazing. But I do feel like sometimes it's the same, like going into that place where we're dealing with the things that aren't in alignment and this intuition. I've been doing more work and being allowing for my intuition to guide more of the work that I do. And it's not always easy to allow your intuition, because sometimes it leads us to making decisions that may hurt others. Like you said, you had to,
Mhm.
leave your family behind. I mean, you didn't actually leave them behind. You're still obviously
Right.
a parent. You're still
Right.
taking care of your daughters. I know that you are. I mean, we delayed our podcast so you could take his daughters to an
Right.
appointment. So we know that, but you change the way that you live and operate as a family. And that takes a lot of courage.
Mm.
It's not easy to say, go through your own stuff and deal with the crap and deal with all this and then make these moves forward. And it can go either way, right? We can either go towards being closer as a family or really dividing and not coming back. So, how did you kind of get to that place where you said, I have to go this way? Like that must have been difficult.
It was, it was, I've, and I think a big part of it is that kind of intuitive voice that I truly feel even at a younger age, it was there. I didn't quite when you're younger, I don't really understand. It wasn't until I kind of really stepped into my own spirituality that I really began to see and feel and listen to this. And there was a lot of trust. There was a lot of trust even in the hopeless moments. And I know a big part of that was built through the courage and confidence that I gained in the sports arena
Mm.
in years and years of high performance sport background.
Yeah.
So I knew that with great work will come great reward. And I talk about it, Julie, a lot because, as you know, I'm in the process of writing a book as well. And so I've been on a lot of podcasts and I talk about this, that I think one of the biggest things that I did to really get clear was I didn't rush the process. Um, when we're in a jungle event, for each of us, it's a painful place to be. And naturally we want to get out. We
Right.
want, we want to stop the suffering. And not that I didn't feel that, I just instinctively knew that the longer that I could sit, the more I would get clear. And I can say that now. Back then, trust me, I was trying to crawl out at times. And so that was a big thing for me, is the time that I needed. And it's going to be different for all of us, whatever that is, right? Yeah.
This part about not rushing the process is it's priceless, really, to allow the process to actually happen. I know that I fall into that often where I'm like just trying to like get to the other side, like let's go. However, I am well aware that if the lesson isn't learned this time around, it's going to come back, and it's going to come back in a way that will be more difficult and more challenging until we are in a situation where we are forced to stop. And I think what we saw in the past year for a lot of people is they were all the stuff that they had been rushing through and ignoring and not paying attention to their intuition suddenly came to a head. And we've seen a real shift in how people are working and how people are operating. Even you've completely changed your business over the past, is it the past year that things changed? Tell us a little bit about that change for you.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, I was very blessed to work with an amazing company for almost 4 years in coaching, in performance coaching. And again, through this growth over the last 3 years of that, specifically the last year, when you really, all I can say, Julie, is when you really connect to your truth, your ultimate truth, and understand that, when truth lands, trust begins. And when we start moving forward, things become clear, and my voice, my brand, my showing up in a conscious way in everything I do just became more prevalent and more important to me, to honor that and to really chart my own course with that, and impact and be of contribution in my own way. Still coaching, still doing many of the same things, just from a different lens, just a different lens. So I made a big decision to honor that and move out right at the beginning of this year. So it's only been, where are we at? 7 weeks, maybe, give or take, 6 weeks of really showing up. James Gardner, Conscious Warrior Coaching, the hero within. Here we go. It's been amazing so far.
And that's exciting. And again, these courageous moments where you're following what aligns with you and that intuition. And I'm bringing this message up again and again, because I think that's what a lot of people need to hear, is that it's okay to listen to your intuition and follow your gut and do the things that are right for you. We've mentioned leadership a few times, and I want to go back to that for a moment, because you were mentioned a little bit the natural born leader through the sports and all that. And I'm going to admit that I also have had that title of natural born leader growing up and even in business. But here's what I found is that natural born leader does not actually mean I was actually a very good leader. I actually didn't necessarily know. I studied John Maxwell, the levels of leadership, realized that a lot of what I thought was me being natural born leader was really just me trying to get people to do what I wanted them to do and not actually leadership. So I don't know if it's the same experience for you, but it's interesting that you brought that up. And I want to hear a little bit about you talk about conscious leadership. So that's where I'm excited to go, is like, we say natural born leader, leaders there's this whole discussion whether leaders are born or made. I don't know, but I feel like being a natural born leader does not actually make you a great leader, but
Agreed.
you being a conscious leader is something that we make. I'm
Yeah, I
asking
agree.
here.
I agree. From my perspective, I think there are natural born leaders, and then some evolve into a conscious leadership mindset. So,
Okay.
yeah, this is a great conversation. I love this. Conscious leadership. What is conscious leadership versus just leadership? And you mentioned a big thing, which is, the old side of the spectrum is you just get people to do what you want to do and lead them and have the charisma and have them, the rah, the troops and lead them forward. This new paradigm shift now in business is really about bringing a heart-centered approach to everything, and understanding that gone are the days of transactions, and that transactions, numbers. Employees are people, and it's a relationship business. And conscious leadership, in my opinion, is about first taking ownership over ourselves, because we're all in the business of leading. We're all leaders over ourselves first and foremost, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then understanding the intricacies of the people that are under your command, if you will. So when I go in and work with businesses, whether it's C-suites or even just a small business of 2 employees, 3 employees, it's about understanding that each one of those people have an individual rhythm. They have an individual energy. There's a culture we're trying to create. There's ways to position things and ways to get buy-in and support, and allowing them to be seen, heard, and understood, which is so powerful. So it's a culmination, in my opinion, of all these interwoven things that just add to a way of showing up for ourselves, for others, to lead someone towards a collective outcome, decision, way of state of existence, a culture, and doing so in a supportive, unilateral move forward.
You said something there quickly that I think is also super important, is that we all first start by leading ourselves.
Mm.
So even if you're not in an official position of leadership, leadership begins with yourself. Leadership begins with who you are and how you show up. And you mentioned about being a high performance champion. So I read that and I take that as having to do with sports and achievement and accomplishment. And when I asked you about this, that's not exactly what that means. So, what does high performance champion mean to James?
Yeah, I am a coach, a strategist, and a high performance champion, as you said, and the reason why that is at the third of the three is because it's to me it's showing up in all facets of life, uh, understanding that every moment is a chance to create a podium moment for ourselves, to really live in a state of high performance, high energy, high frequency. And so with the work that I do with business owners, especially, it's about understanding the coach in me can break down limiting beliefs and work with mindset and inner game and you know uncover the pieces on the chessboard. Then the strategist goes and I start to assemble those in an architecture based on what our goals are, what their goals are. And then the high performance champion is amassing all of that in a new state of existence and having conscious leadership being at the forefront of everything we do in businesses and how we govern ourselves. So it is spawned, if you will, from time in the sports arena. And yet, as you know, as an Iron Woman yourself, you know that when you step into that, it's not just a sporting event. It becomes it's the way you live,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That is true. I never really thought of that. And I feel like my Ironman journey, sometimes I feel like it was like another lifetime ago. But then a friend reminded me, it's like that part of me, I'm definitely not fit like an Ironman anymore, but that part of me that did the Ironmans, that part still exists in me. And especially the lessons that I learned around mindset and commitment and what my body can do. It really did change the way that I function. One of the stories that I've shared before, but really I think is so powerful about this Ironman mindset is that, and we'll talk about I want to hear about your Ironman experience, but when I got sick in the hospital, so after my second miscarriage, I ended up in the hospital with a life-threatening bacterial infection. And I was in a coma for a week to heal. And obviously, I'm here and I healed 100%. But when I woke up and I knew it was weird. I thought time in the ICU, like, you have no idea how much time has gone by. I didn't know if I'd been there for a week, a month. I had no idea, but I thought it was really close to Christmas. And I was like, I need to get home for Christmas. And I had time to get home for Christmas. But in my mind, I was like, gotta get home, gotta get home. And my friend, who is an ER doc, who's a triathlete like me, who trained, we used to train together when I was doing Ironmans, he said, you need to have an Ironman mindset right now. And you need to figure out exactly what it is that you need to show them in the hospital for you to be able to be released as quickly as possible for you to finish healing at home, which is obviously an easier situation. And I remember him like saying that. And all that I'd done, all those Ironmans, all those times, those trainings that were so hard, the really difficult conditions, crossing the finish line and all these things that I did in that moment helped me to basically, I had to be able to walk and use the bathroom by myself and like just little things. But from being in a coma for a week, that's a big thing. But I remember it was like that Ironman mindset that never left me. And in that moment was critical. So,
Mhm.
um, that's what like an Ironman, mindset has done for me. So tell me a little bit about your Ironman experience because yours is more recent than mine.
Yes, I did a full Ironman in 2017, October of 2017 in Maryland. So uh, it was an amazing experience. Honestly, though, no, I'll explain it, Julie, but it was probably one of my last huge ego plays before I really started to, because it was after that I really started to kind of go down my other path and I think it just kind of led to a series of where I am now. So uh, I'm a rower. I am a rower. I belong on top of the water, not in the water. Okay. I spent a lot of years, competing at a high level. So I and I was right before the Ironman, right up to the Ironman, basically. I've been rowing in masters events all over North America. And I wanted to do an Ironman, a bucket list. Why not? And I wanted to do it my way. Of course, my way. So what that means is I signed up for an Ironman. I switched out of the rowing boat and I gave myself 6 months to train for the Ironman. And I didn't want to do a half. I wanted to do a full. I'm like, I'm going to go all in. Now obviously I was in top shape rowing wise, not necessarily Ironman wise, right? So I did the Ironman training. I started to train. I built my own program based off of just some research, and started running and swimming, which was very humbling, as you know, as for many people.
Uh-huh.
Uh, yeah. Anyway, and I trained on a spin bike. So I was like, I'm not going to go out and buy a bike. So I trained on a spin bike and finally borrowed a road bike 1 month before the Ironman. And all that to say, I was hitting my markers as an athlete of where I wanted to be for my training plan. Showed up in Maryland, which was an amazing experience. I had no idea it was such a party. Like, it's such a cultural event.
Oh, yeah.
I was blown away. This old kind of New England style town. Everyone came out of the woodwork and it was amazing. I had my time set of where I wanted to go. This is what I'm going to do. And 15 minutes into the swim, 15 minutes, my left shoulder popped. I heard a pop, a thud under the water. I was like, oh shit. Uh, and so things went south quickly. I got out of the swim, of course, fairly one of the last few out of the water, most likely. I couldn't move my arm. I had to help them. They had to help me grab my old tie to take my wetsuit off. I couldn't do my helmet strap for the bike. So uh, got on the bike, did the bike. And of course, as fate would have it, it's two huge loops and the big back end goes out in this estuary right on the ocean. And the wind's just whipping in. And here I am. I don't have aero bars. I can't get down into a aerodynamic position. I can't support myself. I was like, I'm in it to win it. I'm not coming all the way to Maryland to pull a DNF, right? So I made it through the bike again, probably about an hour and a half slower than I wanted to. And it was challenging. And then I started running with my wounded wing pinned by my side. And I finished. I crossed the line. I crossed the line about 2.5 hours slower than I wanted to. Not that means anything to me really at this point. And it was a very, very humbling journey to make it and be called an Ironman. And yeah, and there you have it. And so I have the medal behind me, and it stays with me also as a reminder of humility too, because of the amazing accomplishments and also how quickly things can turn. And it's just a constant reminder for me. Yeah.
What's really interesting to me is you mentioned it was kind of the last thing you did that was really from ego. And also that taught you that humility. That is the thing, as an Ironman, is very humbling. I actually don't recommend it. For me, it was a bucket list, and then I did it 2 more times. I'm not a huge, go the half. It doesn't wreck your body as much, but truly, in general, even though I did fundraising for my Ironman, so maybe less ego, but really not. Like, I feel like there's a lot of ego that goes into the time that it takes to prepare for an Ironman, and the commitment and the sacrifices. And at the same time, the mindset that you build in order to finish an Ironman with one arm like pinned to your body, that mindset that you built all through your career as an athlete, that also will then serve you forever. So Even though I don't recommend a full Ironman, there are really some incredible lessons and things that can come out of that experience. And like you said, that humility of being humbled by the race. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong in an Ironman triathlon. And I finished all three of mine, and I'm just like extremely really lucky that I was able to, because there's a lot that can happen.
Mm.
And I really applaud you for doing the whole thing with one arm.
It
Yeah.
was, yeah. Well, thank you. Well, thank you very much for that. When you know better than I, because you've done three. I knew though when I got off the bike, because we know we're strategists, right? And
Yeah.
when we're doing the
Yeah.
Ironman, we know we're at times. And I knew when I got off the bike that technically I could walk the marathon and still finish. Like
It's a
I
long walk though,
a
friend.
long walk.
It's a long
Oh,
walk.
I do. And even then, I still found the resolve, Julie, to push myself. I said, okay, I'm gonna run for as long as I can. And I think I pulled the plug on maybe 2 hours and 15 minutes in on the run is when I started to walk for the first time, take a little break. And then I think I ran for another hour straight, and then I walked again. And those were like little mini wins in there too, that I think athletes find ways to keep going.
This really helps me to understand, you, the coach, the strategist, the high performance champion, it all kind of makes sense now, like understanding more of your story and of your athlete and your really difficult Ironman, because I think sometimes the gift of an Ironman are the harder ones for sure. I think there's something, to be said about, like, we know that when we go through really difficult adversity, it really strengthens our character. I want to just shift a little bit, because for those that are watching the video, but if you're on audio, you can't see it. You have something written on a chalkboard behind you, which really caught my attention the first time we spoke. And it says, gratitude gives abundance. So, James, what does that mean for you?
Gratitude. It's all about gratitude, as you know. It's I've learned, and in our world, it's common speak, and it's I hear it as much as I hear hi a lot, and yet it's such an understated, powerful word that can lead to, that really is a doorway to abundance, that is a doorway to uh, stepping in our true potential. And everything that I do now is with an air of gratitude. It's part of my winning ritual every day. There's even, like we just talked Ironman, even in my run, there was something to be grateful for, right? There's always things to be grateful for in every situation of every day. And to me, gratitude equates to frequency. And when we pause and just shift our perception of something, and give gratitude for, and finding the gratitude in any situation, changes that frequency dial on the radio, and puts us in a proactive, loving, energetic state of being. And so I think it's it's definitely a thing that is in my utility belt as I show up day in and day out, as it is for you, as it is for many. It's a universal law, in my opinion. Gratitude reciprocates.
Yeah, it's interesting now how, having connected with so many people through the podcast and learning and different ways that people practice gratitude and how it shows up in their lives. A year ago, I felt like I really had a good, solid gratitude practice. And what I've realized is that there's just so many ways that gratitude can show up in our lives, the way that we can practice it, the way we can use gratefulness as an appreciation, even when we're going through things that are really difficult. Like in that race, when you were like, okay, like my case, my arm, I'm going to figure this out. There's so many opportunities for gratitude on a daily basis. Now, you mentioned your winning formula. What's
Winning ritual.
winning rituals? Tell me more.
Tell me more.
Tell me more.
Yeah, so for myself and for those that I work with, I help them uncover a winning ritual, and that
Okay.
is a systemized thing that that I create for myself, that honors myself, that gives me what I need to start my day and to end my day. And so I bookend my days.
Yes.
And my winning ritual, it's a non-negotiable every day. Some days it varies in length, but it is the first thing that I do every day. And that is open my eyes. I sit on the edge of the bed. I take 10 deep breaths before I get up. I get my coffee because coffee is a non-negotiable for me. Have to. I sit down and I do some more breathing. And then I hold space for what I'm feeling. I just invite what's landing for me. Where am I at this point of kind of coming from unconsciousness to consciousness, if you will? And I make some notes. I then usually go YouTube video. I usually pick one video, about a 15-minute, 12-minute video. I have my music that I select every morning. It's a variety of soundscape, inspirational stuff. It just kind of stirs I'm all about the romantic five senses. That's my creative spark every day. So how do I stimulate that? And music is such a huge thing for me. And then I sit again. I end it with holding space for what's landing, and I create my intention for the day. How do I want the day to go? Ease and flow, on fire, slow and steady, loving embrace. And that just, and they're on Post-it notes, and that sticks with me how I show up throughout the day. It's my compass point that brings me back in the day. And then I end the day, Julie, I bookend it with a gratitude practice, and just a sitting and affirming some gratitude for the day, some deep breaths, and off I go.
I really like that idea of the Post-it note with the intention for the day. I hadn't thought of that. That's amazing. What a great idea.
Yeah, like I have them everywhere. This was yesterday's. Love in every word.
Oh, I love
Right.
it.
So yeah.
Yeah, my Post-it notes are notes for my podcast and also about probiotic. That's about a strain of probiotic. That's what I've got right now. Yeah, and a book Post-it. I am also a big fan of Post-it notes, but I love the way you're using them. So I'm going to take that one. I'm going to include it in some of my rituals. I'm just curious, when you say you watch like YouTube videos, is there like a particular person that you like to watch, or is it just whatever kind of comes up?
Yeah, honestly, whatever comes up,
Okay.
I usually just Google what comes to me in the moment,
Oh,
whether it's
cool. Okay.
athletic motivation, uh,
Oh,
yeah, montages. I mean, there's I will follow like a Jim Rohn video, or sometimes there'll be things like that. I tend to gravitate to the ones that are kind of montages that are edited together with
yeah.
different clips, sound
Okay.
clips.
I love it. I will send you a video that I want to share with you after.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay, my friend, I have just loved our time together. I think I remember now our first conversation, it was like an hour. I think it was supposed to be like a 20-minute meeting. And there was a lot of really interesting connections that we share. Beyond the Ironman, this whole leadership. I just love it so much. And I've learned so much from our conversation. And I just want to say a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart, because this has really enriched my life to spend this time with you. Where do we find you? What's the best way to connect with you?
Sure. Well, you can find me on theherowithin.ca. It's my website, blog site. That's fine. James at theherowithin.ca. Obviously, I am super visible on Facebook. You can look up James Gardner, you'll see me. There's James Gardner on LinkedIn. Shoot me a message. I love connecting with people. I love engaging in high frequency convo, and welcome it. Welcome the support. And I'm always here to hold space. That's part of my contribution.
Well, thank you again for this wonderful time together. And I'm just so grateful to be sharing you with our community.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for having me.